Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we are going to answer a question that I get a lot. How do I make my hero stronger? How do I make my Doctor Strange stronger, have more energy attack? How do I make this character have a bigger schlong? All these questions, guys. I actually do see them a lot, and I'm a bit surprised by them at times. But I took some time to think about why it is that people post these questions, and I felt like it was something that I could take into discussion for you guys and kind of dissect and list out step by step. So I will say at the beginning, and you might want to comment below, oh, a lot of these things seem really obvious, Cynicalex, we're not dumbasses, who do you take us for? I totally understand you. I'm doing this for two reasons. For one, it may actually be helpful to newer players or to people who just don't know how to prioritize a character's development. And for two, it will be something cool to look back on, maybe in 6 months, maybe in a year, when the game has shifted, and some of these things that I've listed in priority in terms of what you should do first to maximize your character's strength may become obsolete or may be replaced by something better altogether. So it can be a bit of an interesting time capsule as far as the history of the game is concerned. So if you want to make your character stronger, there's a lot of things you can do in the game these days to make them stronger. We're going to go from the very basic all the way to the end game stuff, and I'm going to try to prioritize them as best I can based on what you can both do and what you should be aiming for given the resources that you can farm for. This only applies, of course, to native tier 1 characters. For characters like Odin, for characters like Doctor Strange, they're native tier 2. You have to go through a whole different set of hoops before you can actually make them stronger. So if you're looking for those characters specifically, you have to start looking at other things down the list, not the first few steps. And specifically, you have to look at your card setup. So the first thing you need to do if you want to make a character stronger is obviously to rank them up. I'm very close here. For example, with Wong, I have 156 of 160 biometrics. If I get to 160 with 4 more, by getting them from some place, I'll be able to rank him up. As you can see, rank ups provide a huge stat bonus. They provide new skills, and it's basically this is the #1 way to get a character to become stronger. It's going to unlock new skills, it's going to unlock passive effects, it's going to really bump up their stats, and that's when you're really going to start to see the character take shape. Most characters in the game don't even take shape until they're at 6 stars, so keep that in mind if you're not at 6 stars yet. Baby steps. Baby steps. The second thing that you want to do after you rank up the character from collecting their bios, however they're obtained, is you want to level that character up. So as you can see here, my Black Cat, she's at level 55 of 60. The maximum level will depend on how many stars you have. The best way to rank them up is by playing through specific missions. You can check out another video that I've done on which missions are the most effective for ranking up or leveling up a character after you've ranked them up. You can also go the easy way by using XP chips, and you'll get a certain percentage of the level based on how many XP chips you use. For example, if I blow all of these chips, it'll get me kind of halfway to level 57, and that will also incrementally improve my stats. It won't improve anything else, but it will improve the stats, and then I'll get some crystals when I get to level 60, which is nice. And the level actually does matter a lot in the game, despite it not being detailed for us. The level of your character will affect not only how much damage you're doing to enemies, how often they're dodging you, but also how often you're dodging them, and how much damage they're doing to you. A perfect example of why level is actually so important is the level 12 Asgardian missions. Because the enemies now rank up past level 60, it's actually extremely difficult to take them down with a tier 1 character, because the level is still at 60, so it's kind of locked, and you're getting dodged a lot, your attacks are not hitting, you're missing, and you do need to bring in, most of the time, tier 2 characters in order to stand a fighting chance. So the level of the character does really matter, however obvious that might sound. The next thing you want to do is you want to master the character's rank. So for every star that you achieve, here we have Hulkling with 1 star, I can go and master that. And to master it, you do need to collect the Nordstones of the appropriate color. There are 4 colors, and you can farm them from a lot of different locations. They're actually not that hard to farm anymore, especially with World Boss Invasion. And the mastery, when you do it, as you can see here, it will increase all of your stats, and it will increase your character's leadership. In certain characters' cases, their leadership is absolutely worthless. In other characters' cases, it's absolutely amazing. So you do want to take that into account, but in general, mastering a character is a fantastic way to boost up their stats, and boosting up their stats is going to boost their power by a lot, because you have a lot of other factors that are percentage adding on to their base stats. So any kind of leadership that adds like offense, like physical attack, energy attack, or all attack, that's going to add a percentage based on your existing physical or energy attack. So you want to get those stats there on the main page under details to be as high as possible, so you can reap the most benefits from those percentage points. The next thing you want to do is you want to level up the necessary skills on your character. Now this takes gold, and a lot of people ask me, Cynicalex, why don't you rank up a character's skills all to 6? As you can see here, I have most of Volstag's skills at level 3. The only skills that I would tell you to prioritize to level 6, because I know gold is so rare and so precious a commodity for new players, is skills that increase in their ability or their special effect when you rank them up. So for example, not Valiant Slash, Valiant Volley just gets more damage as I level it up. So this is really not a good skill to spend gold on. But for example, Voluminous Blow, it gives a better all-speed buff to Volstagg when I level it up. Another great example would be Volstagg's Formation. The summons, the illusions that come out, have a higher percentage of my stats if I level up this skill. So it's very important to level up this skill. Enormous Earthquake, not so much. It's always going to have a 3-second stun. I don't need it at level 6 necessarily unless I'm, shitting gold. Valiant Slash, I may want to actually upgrade this one, because as you can see, at my current level, I only reflect 58% of received physical damage, but at level 4, it's going to be 62. So I can rank this one up, and you can see that I'm now going to reflect 70%. So I've just increased it from 58% to 70. Honestly, that's not a big deal at all. I'll probably never see the significance of that 12%, but for other skills, like ones that give you a buff to your stats, one that summon clones, one that has a guard. So for any skills that apply a guard, so for example Songbird's Shield, you want to level those up as much as possible. If it provides a heal, those kinds of skills you want to make sure that they are at the maximum level. If there's an immunity that's going to increase in the amount of time that it's active for, here we go, another perfect example, Wong. Now I can just activate my immunity for 1 second longer. That's very invaluable. That could be the difference between losing and winning in some cases. So that's, about 1,000,000 gold well spent there to increase my immunity for 2 seconds. So you do need to prioritize which stats you're upgrading to level 6, because it's very costly as far as the gold goes, but you do want to be able to identify which skills you should rank up. In general, the skills that you don't rank up because they're just damage skills, you can leave them at level 1. There's not much of a difference between level 1 and level 3 anyways, but it's basically up to you on how much gold you have and how much you're willing to spend on that. Once you've upgraded the skills, ranked up the character, leveled up the character, and mastered the character, you want to start looking at their character gears. Now you can mix some of this up a little bit if you feel like it, but in general it's going to cost you a lot of gear up kits at the beginning, and you don't have a lot because you just started playing, so you're going to find it very difficult. It's going to be a very truncated, bottlenecked resource, and you're going to feel frustrated that you can't gear up all of your characters. So what I would say is just focus on the one character that you want to clear all of your content, whether it's Sharon Rogers that you started with, or Loki, or another kind of OP meta character, or whoever you picked, if you picked Venom, for all I care, and you want to upgrade their gear. Then as you get gold, you want to obviously roll their gear to the appropriate stats. See, I have both energy attack and physical attack and all attack. I have conflicting numbers here. I know Wong is a physical attacking character, so I do need to take some time to re-roll these energy attack ones so that they're physical attack. And you want to upgrade these gears to specific number tiers, because each tier will give you another line, another blue line, or it will activate the second orange line. So as you can see here, my 15 plus runic staff has 2 lines of orange text, whereas my +5 gold fabric belt made by, Givenchy only has, or Givenchy, I don't know, only has 1 orange stat line. So the number that you want to aim for in the plus column is, you want to aim for either +9, +12, +15, +17, or 20. And I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So the scimitar, for example, if I upgrade it once to level 6, it gains its second stat there. Level 6 is quite easy to get to. That's why I skipped it initially in my discussion. But now if you see, if I upgrade to level 7, nothing really happens. It just upgrades the 2 base stats a little bit. If I upgrade it again, it's going to go to level 8, same difference. But now, when I go to level 9, I'm going to unlock a new blue slot there for skill cooldown. When I get to level 12, we're going to see the same thing happen again, where I'm going to unlock another blue stat line. There we have attack speed. So you want to aim for those odd number increments, 6, 9, 12, 15, 17, and 20. For new players, you probably want to stop at 15 because after 15, it requires the character's biometrics, and that's just not something that you're going to be able to feasibly farm for, especially if you have unfarmable characters that you're building up like Sharon Rogers. So don't worry about going past 15 in the early stages of buffing up your character. Now at this point you may be wondering, what about the character's uniform? The uniform does play a very important role in the character's stats because you can get anywhere from a 10% to a 20% bonus based on how much you've developed the character's uniform. However, I would say that because of the crystal cost of the uniform, and because some uniforms are very hit and miss, some uniforms were good and now are obsolete, I wouldn't necessarily say, yeah, go grab the uniform no matter what right away at the beginning. I think you should do some research and figure out if the character's uniform is really that great for them. If you really don't care and you just want the character to be as strong as possible no matter what you have to spend, I would get the uniform right after getting the character to level 60. That way you can reap the full benefits of the uniform because you can usually play through most of the content with them once they're at level 60 and they have 6 stars. Otherwise, you want to move on to the next step, which is probably the most complicated step. And this step is where you're going to try and identify if the character has innate survivability. I'm going to define innate survivability as any of the following attributes. If the character has iframes built into their skills, if they have some kind of triggerable or passive triggered immunity, if they have some kind of passive or triggerable invincibility. Those two things are different, although they function almost exactly the same. As you can see here, Carnage has invincibility, not immunity. There, it shows up on maximum Carnage. Or if the character has a very large passive heal or a triggerable heal. So in Moon Knight's example, he has a passive triggered heal of 30%. So if the character has any one of those 5 abilities, iframes, immunity, invincibility, passive healing, or a triggered healing, then that character, in my opinion, has what I would like to call innate survivability. If that character has innate survivability, you should try to equip them with both an offensive obelisk and an offensive ISO 8 set. Now for Wong's example, I'm not 100% sure if he does have iframes, but I know for a fact he has a 5-second immunity on a 14-second cooldown. With my 50% cooldown reduction, I can get that down to 7 seconds, so I can have Wong be immune for 5 out of 7 seconds whenever I'm playing as him. That to me is pretty damn good innate survivability, so I don't think he needs any more survivability. I don't think he needs a defensive ISO 8 set. I don't think he needs a defensive obelisk. So here I want to roll an offensive obelisk, Power of Angry Hulk, Overdrive, Hawk's Eye, and then I want to equip him with an offensive obelisk, something like defense penetration, crit rate, crit damage, damage proc. If they have an elemental damage as their primary source of skill function, like Thor or Black Widow or Green Goblin or Ghost Rider, etc., you want to also equip them with an obelisk that will tweak those skills even further by applying one of the damage boosting elemental functions. Now, if the character does not have any innate survivability, take for example Kingpin. Although he is a very popular character, he has excellent summons, he doesn't have iframes, he doesn't have any healing, he doesn't have any invincibility or immunity or triggerable passive heals, anything like that. So unfortunately for the big man, he, in my mind, is someone who does not have innate survivability. He can take aggro away by using his clones, but that's a very difficult skill to master, so I think that he needs something like a defensive-minded obelisk and ISO 8 set. So in this case, we went with I Am Also Groot, which provides a maximum HP recovery, and then we went with a synergistic HP recovery rate percentage up obelisk. So those will work in tandem to make sure that he regenerates or he heals for the most amount of HP possible whenever he takes too many hits. Another example would be someone like Iron Man. Unfortunately, even with his newest uniform, Iron Man only has one iframe on the crash landing. All of his other skills have no iframes, immunity, invincibility, or any kind of healing, so he does not have innate survivability. So it's best to roll a defensive obelisk and ISO 8 set for him. In this case, I went with an HP shield. For characters who have a lot of HP and who are tanky like Kingpin, you can give them a heal like I Am Also Groot or Stark Backing. For characters who are still fragile, you want to give them something like Drastic Density Enhancement, which will give them an HP bubble because they're still going to get hit and they can't take as many base hits, so the heal will just do less for them overall than a bubble will. And then, in this case I went with an offensive obelisk, but you can go with a defensive one if you want to synergize it, like max HP plus an invincibility proc when they get below a certain amount of health. Understanding whether the character has innate survivability is super important in order to build them properly, because if you take a character that doesn't have innate survivability and you just give them a very glass cannon build, they're going to die in a very few hits, and you're not going to be very effective with them unless you're an excellent player at the game mechanically speaking. So I think this is probably the most important step in order to figuring out where it is you may have gone wrong with a character as far as developing them and trying to maximize their strengths and minimize their weaknesses. And that's the point of identifying innate survivability. Of course, play with whatever character you want, have fun, all that good stuff, but if you want to succeed, you will have to take these steps in order to get the most out of your character, squeeze the most orange juice out of their dry, bloody skin. Once you've done all of those steps, you're ready to try and tier 2 a character. There are two ways that you can go about trying to tier 2 a character, and one of them involves waiting for a month until you get a tier 2 ticket, and the other one involves farming world boss materials through the missions and getting enough black antimatter and chaos nordstones. Once you do either one of those two things, you'll have the opportunity to tier 2 the character. Before you can tier 2 the character, however, you will need to get all of their gear up to level 20, so it is a pretty taxing endeavor as far as collecting all of their bios goes and getting all that dimension debris. But once you get there, you will have the option to advance them either by using a ticket, as we've talked about, that you get every month just by logging into the game, or by building up enough chaos nordstones, black antimatter, and bios of the character. In general, this is really not something that's feasible for newer players, so you want to wait the month and get that tier 2 ticket and just make sure that you've collected enough bios to rank up all of their gears to 20. If you haven't ranked up all their gears to 20, it will tell you that you're not ready to tier 2 them yet. So in the case of Volstagg, I have one gear at 20. If I go to advancement and I try to use my tier 2 ticket, I can only use my mega ticket, which you probably don't have, and that one is one that automatically ranks up all of the characters' gears to 20 if you don't already have them. I cannot use the regular tier 2 tickets because they require the gears to be at 20. I also see that question a lot, so I decided to cover it. Once you have the character tier 2, you have their uniform, you have all that good stuff, now you're looking at the end game content. There's basically two things left for you to do for that character specifically after they've been tier 2 and you have their uniform. You can start to upgrade Uru, which you will unlock once you hit shield level 60, and Uru can be used to augment your character's base stats so that they have more flexibility in both their obelisk and their ISO 8 set. So in the case of Carnage, I've been putting different Urus on him, like defense penetration, skill cooldown, and attack speed in some cases, because I'm just trying to augment different aspects of the character to try to squeeze the most out of him in terms of his damage per second and that kind of production. As far as uniforms go, you can upgrade a uniform by both leveling it up by running missions in different modes in order to get it to 100%, and then you can advance the uniform through the ranks, similar to cards, similar to obelisks. And ranking up the uniform actually, I think, provides a much bigger bonus overall than Uru. I think that the cost is probably a lot more, especially in terms of crystals. But I think if you're only going to do one of the two and you're going to just do it for one character, I would go with the uniform. Unless the character is set to get another uniform very soon. We still don't know yet whether characters will get a lot of new uniforms, thus rendering all of our work obsolete if Doctor Strange, for example, got a new uniform next month, all of my work getting his uniform up to mythic rank would be useless. However, for the time being, I am reaping a 20% bonus to attack and defense, and then all of those stats, including over 1,000 in attack speed, and that's not even the top end. The top end for each of these stats is somewhere north of 1,000. At least for attack speed, it's probably closer to 2,000. So you can see that these stats get really insane, whereas Uru doesn't get that high, although it can once you get to shield level 70 and you amplify all of your Uru. But that being said, the Uru tweaking and the uniform stuff is very endgame, and it's very costly to do. You have to farm for upgrade kits, which are those blue little boxes, and you have to get other requisite uniforms. So it's a very time consuming and cost intensive thing to do. The final thing I will say about this entire process, guys, of trying to make your character stronger is to get a little bit of perspective on how your character measures up to other characters that you may be looking at, and you may be thinking, well, why am I not where they are? For one, guys, you need to remember that alliance bonuses do matter for a lot. If you're in a low level alliance, you're getting a much lower crit rate, crit damage, dodge, and skill cooldown bonus. That actually matters a lot. 14% crit rate and 14% crit damage is really nothing to laugh about. That's a decent bonus. More importantly, guys, you do want to check out the character's cards, the player's cards, and you want to try and balance and temper your expectations based on how far your cards are from their cards. If they're rocking 30% defense penetration, if they have 40 or 50% all attack, that's going to make a huge difference. And there's basically nothing you can do about that unless you go out and get those cards too. So keep all those tips in mind. Take all of that into consideration when you're comparing your character's skill level to the skill level of another character. And one final thought I will leave you with is the deception of the My Team page. So I'll give you an example. Let's take Doctor Strange. Right here we can see here he has 19,207 energy attack. You might be saying, wow, Cynicalex, that's a lot. Let me show you a very simple trick for how I can boost that. I switch my team, I go back to Doctor Strange, suddenly he has 21,503 energy attack. That's just because the team bonus is in effect and I'm getting the 18% all attack bonus from Wasp's leadership. So you also have to consider the fact that someone may be inflating the numbers on their character's stats, not intentionally, not maliciously, but just that you may be seeing something that's larger than it may appear to you. You know, perspective is everything, guys. If you hold something very, very close to a camera, it will look gigantic, but in reality, it could be very, very small in your hands. So I hope these tips have been helpful for you guys. I hope this hasn't been too obvious for veterans, and I hope that this has maybe made it easier to try and plan out and prioritize how you want to develop a character, how you're going to maximize their growth in order to get the most out of them. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.